This Little Piggy Shouldn't Have Gone to Market by Team Awesome, Alicia Bider, Dwight Moody, and Brian Martin. We chose this ethical situation from actually one of our organizations to show a real life example in the ag industry. For protection of the organization, we've renamed it and also renamed all the employee names to provide anonymity.
So as Alicia mentioned, we have renamed the company Pigs Are Us. We're going to walk through and provide the situation, policy and procedure, and the ethical dilemma that the company is facing.
So at this company, we've got a few key characters that'll go along with this story. First one is Edwin. Edwin is the caretaker for the facility. He's in charge of the day-to-day operations at this particular farm. Daryl's the assistant manager. He oversees a number of these farms, whereas Carl is the primary manager. Bart is the general manager over this entire division, whereas Aaron is the CEO of the company. The history of this situation: these animals had been treated with a medicine for digestive issues 10 days ago. Carl was away as his wife was giving birth, so he was gone for the week. With Carl being out, it fell onto Daryl's shoulders to prepare the barn for shipment and mark the animals. These loads were abruptly scheduled while Carl was out, so Daryl had to scramble to assemble and get these tasks done. The dilemma is that on Carl's first day back, he gets a call from Edwin saying that the animals shipped the day prior had not met the withdrawal period. The withdrawal period on this drug was 13 days and had only been 10. Carl now needs to decide whether to inform his superiors and put his job in jeopardy.
Policy and procedure. Why the rule exists. Withdrawals on drugs are subjective to both the animal and the drug to ensure they are completely metabolized and trace amounts are not passed on to the consumer. Regulated by the manufacturer, company, and governments.
To ensure there's collaboration, the packing houses swab and sample all loads. Rapid testing is required to ensure that the animals are free of the drug. And USDA personnel often are in place at the facility to provide a check and balance. The potential cost Pigs R Us is facing is, there's a potential $4 million cost if they were to actually come forward at this stage to state that there was an issue with the shipment. At this stage, it's very unlikely that any trace amount of the drug is actually going to be present in the animals and that it would cause any health issues for the consumer. And given the timeline that they're under, the animals technically have passed through the inspections. And so at this point, there really is no risk to Pigs R Us.
So as this goes along, Edwin is the first to identify the problem. He comes in the next day and looks on the sheet to see that the withdrawal period hadn't been met before these animals were shipped out. So immediately he calls Carl and lets him know. What's interesting is that each step of this process, the person prior could vary this. Edwin really wasn't responsible. He isn't necessarily liable either way because he wasn't the one that marked the animals and it wasn't his job to ship these animals. Carl wasn't even there. Carl was actually out, and while it is under his jurisdiction and under his territory, he wasn't there to do any of the actual tasks. But Edwin went straight to Carl with this issue. Then Carl does have to go to Bart and then let him know what happened while he was away. Again, is it Carl's responsibility, even though he wasn't there, to train the employees properly, or does it fall onto his shoulders, and is it his weight to bear? Bart has a large amount of autonomy in this role. His boss, the CEO, really doesn't have an understanding of what's going on out in the field there. Bart could easily make this go away as well. He's newly promoted into this role as well, so it's kind of a big deal for him. He was brought into this company to make some changes and kind of be the new hot hand to lead this this division. Aaron was actually, it was his idea for the parent company to purchase this company. So this company kind of became his baby, and it was really important to him that this part succeeds because he really put his name out there for the company to buy this. As we go up the chain, more knowledge and more accountability falls onto each individual. Edwin really has no idea where the animals are at in the process. He doesn't understand exactly where the packing house is or where everything is during this situation. He doesn't understand if these animals had passed. All he knows is that he saw something on the piece of paper that wasn't in line with the guidelines.
The ethical dilemma. So what do we get if we say nothing? No financial liability. We do run a risk of the loss of integrity and a small chance of health issue in the consumer due to potential trace left in from the medication.
The other choice is that Pigs R Us could actually inform the buyers. This again would produce a $4 million loss per day, considering that they would have to bring the pigs back. It would damage their reputation with the packer and also potentially with future consumers. And also there could be a loss of reputation or job within the organization.
So in this situation, I was actually Carl. I had just come back and the herds person gave me a call and let me know what happened while I was away. I immediately called my boss and let him know what happened. I filled him in every detail I could find, but immediately we didn't talk very long. We started moving that up the chain quite quickly. What ended up happening was Aaron did contact the packer and let them know what happened, that those animals were defective. The reason it became a $4 million loss was because it was the day prior. It was the company's liability to own all of the production for that last 24 hours. So they had to own both their pigs, their loads, and the loads that weren't theirs that were brought from other companies. What ended up following was some good things. There was a lot of policies and procedures put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen anymore. The biggest thing I think happened was that the company, the packing house, actually commended us and said that we were the first company to do something like this, to actually come forward and admit that there was this problem. Because again, the packing house actually had to recall meat that was on the road leaving the facility. That's how far down the line it already was. So the ability to be safe on the company's end was quite high. They could have really gotten away with this without major repercussions. There was a small chance that maybe a processor somewhere down the line could have swapped and found it. But in all likelihood, if the company had stayed quiet, they were likely going to get off scot-free. And like I said, each level of communication could have stopped right there. It was really up to each individual to keep pushing it up the line. So what we have to ask you is, what would you do for Aaron?